Welcome back to the channel. I'm Alberto, and never a dull moment surrounding news with Juventus. And today is no different. We have a lot to break down and dissect. We have some transfer rumblings happening. Then we have the club making official 3 departures by Juve players. And then we're going to tackle, of course, the words of Arrivabene that sent shockwaves through social media and Juventini yesterday in regards to Ligt, saying simply, today it is impossible to keep a player who wants to leave. We're going to tackle those words. Not only that, but we have broken down his entire interview with Tuttosport, and we're going to touch on the key points. Let's go. All right, Juventini, friendly reminder to like the video and, of course, subscribe to the channel. This is all Juve all the time on All Juve Cast, okay? So make sure you hit that subscribe button and set your notifications on, all right? Don't forget this weekend, live with Mirko Di Natale talking transfers, and we might have some that are sealed that we can discuss. So make sure you're on that live chat and you can get your questions in directly to Mirko Di Natale. Now, without further ado, let's get to the news. We're going to kick it off with Juventus making official on their social media accounts the departures of Alvaro Morata, Federico Bernardeschi, and Paulo Dybala. All right, we want to say thank you from the team at All Juve Cast to these players for their contributions to Juventus, and we wish them all the best in the future, unless, of course, any of them join Inter. Then no good luck. All right, so that's it. Those players officially gone and goodbye. Okay, so thank you very much. Good luck in the future, unless it's with the Snakes. Now, let's get to some transfer rumblings. We have Kibozo, young U23 player, had some bangers for some goals and very, very promising forward. Looks like he might go to Amiens on a loan with option to buy deal, okay? So purchase price could be somewhere around $1 million with a percentage going to Juventus on a future sale of Kibozo. So that deal could be wrapped up within the next couple days, okay? Now we have Cambiaso. The news has hit hard over the past few days, looking for Juventus to wrap up the deal. Medicals are apparently scheduled for tomorrow, and they are also waiting for Dragusin, who is the counterpart in this move, to return from vacation to basically go through his medicals and accept the deal going to Genoa. So we just wait for this one. Now, rumors yesterday broke of a potential swap deal with Liverpool and Juventus over Keita and Rabiot. Today, Romeo Gresti basically debunks that, saying there are no confirmations of any of these discussions or swap deals with Liverpool involving Adrian Rabiot. So we continue to wait if we can find a deal for the Frenchman heading to the Premier League, but nothing as of yet. Now, yesterday, it was a madhouse out there on social media, and the reason is because of Arrivabene's Tuttosport interview, in which the words he said when he was asked about De Ligt in this current situation, saying today it is impossible to keep a player who wants to leave. So we break down this entire basic interview and whatnot, and honestly, these words shouldn't come to a surprise to anybody, because he actually said it earlier on in the season when he said nowadays players are more interested in following their agents than the actual shirt of the club they represent. So honestly, those are strong words, and it might hurt because of the star player he is talking about. However, he is not wrong, and I'm with him, and the management will have my full backing in this new structure that they're going to, and making it about the shirt again. And simply, we've operated like this in the past as well. This should come to no surprise as anybody. Beppe Marotti, when he was running Juventus, said the same thing. A player's will always be taken into account, and if they want to leave, we will move them, and we will not keep them here against their will. And we've always operated like that, and this is no different. And I actually like what Arrivabene is doing, and I agree with it. It might hurt, but he said the right things in follow-up to this, which is the biggest thing is finding a deal that works for all the parties involved, obviously Juventus included. So just because a player wants to leave, we're not going to lose our shirts on a deal, and make sure that we're covered financially and on the pitch. So he's right in that sense. Now, in terms of his full interview, Lou, our team member, did a fantastic job of breaking it down in its entirety. You can check that out on our Twitter account. Simply follow at all JuveCast, and he's broken it down into a wonderful thread. It's a great read with your morning coffee or at lunch break at work, whatever. Check it out. It's a great, great breakdown from our buddy Lou. Now, let's get into some of the key points that were on there besides the De Ligt thing. He also spoke about Pogba, and he was asked, how did Pogba come about? And he basically shed a light on how it's actually working and operating at Juventus right now, which is basically interesting to hear now, because he gave definitions of the roles in the partnership between he and Cherubini, and basically says you have to take the numbers and then you take it to the board and they have to back up the move and be on board. If you simply go to the board and say, hey, we're bringing Pogba in without the numbers to back it and the strategy, it will just fall apart and come to nothing. So they basically have to show that the numbers are sustainable. And this is interesting for fans to see, hear, and know about, because you have to understand this management has someone to answer to, and that is the board that is high above. So there you have that. He's shedding some light on how that works. Now, in terms of carrying forward with the numbers and plans and strategies, he spoke about Dybala, and he said it was the management's decision to take a break from the discussions with Paulo Dybala. He said Dybala's agents were on board with that break as well. When they started looking at the pros and cons and they started looking at the financials and these numbers, another opportunity presented itself. We know who came in January. We know who that was. That was Vlahovic. They decided, looking at the strategy and the finances and everything, that they were going to go that route. Arrivabene doubled down by saying there was no disputes with Dybala whatsoever. It was simply this, us putting the numbers together, looking at the strategy, and deciding to go this route. So there you have it. That sheds light on a discussion that nobody really knew further details on. Again, this is their side of the story. Paulo Dybala has not spoken on it. We will probably never hear about his side of it, but basically it's looking like this. And honestly, it's pretty consistent with everything you're hearing and seeing in terms of how we're operating since Cherubini and Arrivabene have come in here. They're looking at cutting salaries down drastically. They're not just simply renewing players for the sake of renewing them, and they're willing to let these guys go. And Arrivabene speaks directly to that in this interview, saying that if we're looking at wages on all these players, and if you are not of a crazy technical ability where you must stay amongst this team, we will say thank you and goodbye and move on, because it has to work for the team. And he said, in terms of following up on this agent comment that he was making when he met Mino Raiola, he said Raiola's first words were that players will follow the agents before the shirt. And that's where Arrivabene's midseason comment came from. It came directly from Mino Raiola. And Arrivabene, in this interview with Tuttosport, says that basically now they have one idea in mind as management, and that is to make it matter about only one name. Only one name should count, and that name is Juventus. All right. So this is amazing. And you know what? I'm fully on board. There's a reason I chose this jersey to wear on this video, and that is because these stripes, there are no logos, there are no crests, there is nothing. It is the stripes and the stars. Okay. And that's all that matters. And I'm fully on board with management with their new game plan. All right. So this is fantastic stuff to hear Arrivabene open up with. I'm fully on board. It always be club over player. Any player, no matter what. All right. Always. And fino alla fina. All right. So again, you could check out the full interview from Arrivabene on our All Juve Cast Twitter channel. But I tell you, I'm actually very, very excited. And I think all Juventini should be excited about what these guys are trying to create here at Juventus. And you know what? It reminds me of the old school days when they didn't care at all who the player was involved. It was only about the shirt. You would either basically fall in line or you would be moved. And you know what? I'm fully on board with this. We have to get behind these guys. I will be behind these guys until they give me reason not to. And so far, they haven't taken a step wrong. All right. So whether we have some players that we hold some sentiments to, which I do, that are moving on, regardless, it's still going to always be about the club, because the players come and go, but it's the club that remains. A player may have helped you fall in love with the club, but that player will not remain forever. the club will. So we have to get behind these guys. I'm fully on board. I love what they're doing. I love how Arrivabene is so transparent and open about everything that's going on there. So very, very interesting stuff. Obviously, going to send some ruffles through some feathers the way he speaks so candidly, but ultimately, I like the job they're doing, and we're getting pretty excited about some of these discussions and some of the signings that they're already making this Mercado. And it has been an incredible job so far, and it's a tough, tough task. I've always said I don't envy Cherubini and Arrivabene for what they've had to come into and try to tackle. He also shed some light on that, speaking about the financials. So just to give you guys a little bit of perspective, he said the effects of the pandemic are still being seen and felt by Juventus. And just to shed some light on one small example, he used the museum. He said simply in the time the museum was closed down due to COVID, they lost 75 to 80 million euros in revenue just from the museum alone. He also shed some more light on Douglas Costa. Douglas Costa, player this management had nothing to do with, all right, and has been gone from Juventus for a couple of years now. He will also affect the next balance sheet. And Arrivabene said that. So it's a lot to think about and process, but the amount of cleanup that these guys have to do, and especially coming out of a pandemic, it is massive, and they haven't taken a step wrong. All right. So they deserve our backing, our full backing, and they're trying to bring it back to be all about Juventus. And that's all it should be about. That's your news video, Juventini. I know there's a ton to dissect, and I can't wait to hear about how all of you feel about Arrivabene, his words, and where this club is moving for in the future. Let's go. Drop thoughts, comments, opinions, questions in the comment section. Can't wait to mix it up, and I'll be back tomorrow as always. Fino alla fina, forza Juve. Ciao tutti.